You know, the PSP is such a great multimedia device. It's like everyone says, it was so ahead of its time. But, you know, now that I'm looking at it, I think it's missing something almost every multimedia device from the 2000s had.
Hello everybody, and hold on, something's not quite right.
See? That's your problem. You're stuck on the PSP camera, releasing on October 10th, 2010 in North America, bundled with Invisimals for the PSP. Guess I'm just in a peripheral kind of mood as of late, and for those of you confused about the release information, I'll explain that next in the white segment.
So, the PSP camera, a first-party accessory developed by Sony Computer Entertainment. I see, what I'm looking at is actually the second revision, the PSP 450. The true PSP camera is the 300 revision from 2006. And it's actually a higher resolution too. I only collect and, in turn, only review things natively available in NTSC-U/C territories, since that's what I grew up using. And it's also what the standard is here. The PSP camera we got here is actually the cheaper 0.3 megapixel one. But hey, it's what I had and what I know it as. So despite the low quality, let's see what the PSP camera can do. So back in the day, mine didn't come with anything. I think my dad just got it by itself. But typically, these were bundled with Invisimals or iPad, which is what I have here. Now, I love torturing my iPad on the PS3, but I never had the PSP one. However, this isn't about you, iPad. Who gives a shit about you anymore anyways? Compared to the Game Boy camera, the PSP camera is less of a game with an accessory and more like an accessory with games. The PSP being that portable multimedia powerhouse of the cell that it is, the camera is much more like how it was on PDAs, laptops, and camera phones at the time. The first thing we're looking at with it is the camera's photo-taking abilities. And it has to compete with the Kodak EasyShare C713 from 2007, a 7 megapixel point-and-shoot conventional digital camera.
Last time, it obviously beat the Game Boy camera, but will the PSP camera be able to prove its worth?
Well, for one thing, they're both in color, and naturally, 7 is probably higher than 0.3, but there are plenty of other categories for the PSP camera to not just objectively suck ass. Let's say you don't really care about the gorgeously $100 USD in 2008 high-res image size from the Kodak's 3056 pixels by 2292 pixels 4x3 JPEG files. And instead, the extremely cheap, roughly $50 USD, small and non-invasive 640 by 480 4x3 JPEG files the PSP produces are far more appealing. It's a 1 megabyte average file size with the Kodak, to a 44 kilobyte average file size with the PSP.
And a 1080p 60 FPS video on the internet can't fully do either image justice due to scaling and compression.
But it's good enough to notice just how low quality 480 JPEGs are. Unfortunately, you know, it has loads of compression like JPEGs do. The main issue here, however, is the image is so fucking small, there's nowhere to hide any of it. Also, it's got that musty old school digitizer bad color reproduction stank. Probably due to the fact that the lens is tinted just a little bit blue. So yeah, we get it. It's not replacing the family camera. But it earns high marks for convenience, that is, after you screw the damn thing in. One thing I would also like to add is the photos take forever to actually be taken. You can stand there like an idiot for a second, take a photo. The second you move it away while it's processing, it takes a photo of something else. Okay, see, despite it being a camera, it was never meant for that life. It was always intended to be a webcam, video camera sort of thing. See, now we're talking. A lot more even of a playing field here. The Kodak shoots in 4x3, 240p 30 FPS, and 480p 15 FPS. Listen guys, these were the dark ages for digital technology. 480 was practically all we had. The PSP can only do a max of 272p. Wait, what the fuck is 272p? Well, it's that fancy new widescreen all the kids are talking about. The only other and more traditional option is 4x3 240p.
Of course, it looks terrible and it sounds terrible, and it's also prone to a lot of glitching, as in audio desyncs, video stuttering, and audio stuttering as well.
But who cares? It's fast and easy video that won't hurt your game storage too much. That's all we really need anyway, right? Well, the main goal was to have the camera just clear enough, just small enough, and just cheap enough to make use of it in-game. The 2000s were all about gimmicks in video games, and hot off the PS2 iToy, Sony was down to make their PS2 to go even more like a PS2. The PSP is a game system after all. Let's see how it does with the games. Surely there are a lot. Man, this thing kind of fucking sucks. I won't thoroughly look at iPad as it's the only one I have here, but essentially, yeah, the camera gets the job done. Guess it was always kind of a novelty. When it initially released in Japan, the bundle was with a video editor on a UMD. But realistically, probably the only game shat out for this thing was Invisimals and iPet. It was never gonna be all that great. Don't think the games will save it. The best one is a 7 out of 10. Probably the coolest fact about it was that it worked with Skype on PSP. Rest in peace soon, by the way. But yeah, I genuinely want to know if someone out there used Skype on the PSP with the camera like we use Discord Mobile nowadays. But regardless, guess it was always meant to follow the trends at the time and be a cute little gimmick while maybe being kinda useful and a bit of a time waster. Final verdict. Man, I went into this thinking it'll be a cool ass topic, but the PSP camera gets a 6 out of 10 from me. It's not a bad little thing by any means, it'll always have that cool novelty appeal. But much like the games developed for it, it's pretty mid. At least you can snap some small photos and take little videos. It even has a macro mode option for the lens. But hey, if you saw how cheap it got later on, I wouldn't blame you for running out to buy it.
And there you have it, my review of the PlayStation Portable camera. Always has been, apparently always will be, a novelty thing. It is such a low quality camera, and at least the DSi has the selling point of being built in, despite the fact that it can't record videos. That was later let's just ignore that. But yeah, it really adds not a whole lot to the table. You get 6 very mediocre games and really add too much of anything, really. Pretty much you wouldn't get too much out of it if you weren't nostalgic for it, or don't find that really grainy old school digital photo aesthetic cool. That's a thing nowadays, and I see it, obviously, because I like it too, but I mean, you gotta draw the line somewhere, man. It sucks dick. So, as it turns out, the PSP didn't really need a camera that badly. Didn't stop them from including on the PS Vita though. And just look at how great that did.
No sé cómo será la calidad cuando se pasa así. Lo ve con un cable que tenía.